All right, so today we're doing section 1, 2. I am going to go over the homework from 1, 1. I won't normally do that, but I did want to make mention that you might come across some homework questions that are harder than what we did in the notes, and that's often for this book. It's a more advanced book, but your quizzes and tests will be more regular questions. But again, some of these homework answers that we're going to go over, some of them are a little bit more challenging than what was in the notes, but just try them all and then ask questions and we'll get them all figured out. So there's some basic ones here and some more advanced ones. So number 16, we would call it ray QR or QR with the line above it. I wouldn't just say ray. I don't actually like the book's answer here. You could either say ray QR or, as they have here, QR with the line above it. D, don't just call it a line. Go ahead and name it correctly. So pick 2 letters. If you can't tell, these do have arrows on both sides as a line should. C, it can be called angle 4, angle G, angle FGH, HGF. Make sure the vertex is in the middle. D, there's a lot of different ways to name it. Make sure you pick 3 points or the 1 letter that is not a point. 17 is a more advanced question, kind of like I was talking about. There's some harder ones just to get you thinking a little bit more. So if you missed that one, don't worry too much about it. 18, explain why S is, angle S is ambiguous because, oh, sorry. The question is, explain why S is not an appropriate name for angle 1. So there is more than one way to draw it. So if you look at, let me find it real fast. Where's my recorder? Okay, now that I have this drawn, it makes sense. So the question was, I didn't have the picture. Explain why S is not an appropriate name for angle 1. So if you look at angle 1 right here, we can't just call it angle S because this could have been angle S over here. So to be more specific, since S is kind of confusing, if you want this angle right here, angle 1, you'll have to use 3 letters. So that's why they picked R, S, T would be a good way to name it. And then number 19, you can see number 20 is a way you can draw the picture. So again, there's some more basic ones, like question 16 is more like what you'll see on a quiz or test, but you might see some more challenging questions, but for the most part, there'll be more basic ones. But I do want you to think and attempt all of them so you get all your points, and we learn a little when we go over the answers. All right, to get started for today's lesson, section 1, 2, more geometric figures. These are what we're learning about. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Because as you share your ideas, be sure to use mathematical terms and academic vocabulary precisely. Make notes to help you remember the meaning of new words and how they are used to describe mathematical ideas. Number 1, draw 4 angles with different characteristics. Describe each angle. Name the 4 angles using numbers and letters. So go ahead, pause it and do that. You may have come up with this. So here are 4 angles with different characteristics. Describe each, name the angles using numbers and letters. So I'm not going to take the time to do all of that, but you could label everything. Basically, I need 4 angles. So this one looks acute, this one looks obtuse, this one looks, now it is right. This one is what we call a straight angle. So the vertex could be right here, and it just goes all the way to make a straight line. But it's not considered a line, it's called an angle. So the vertex is here, vertex is here, vertex is here, vertex is there. And then you can label it. I guess I am going to go ahead and do them all. So these are all angle A, B, C, but they are different. If we wanted to use letters, we could call it angle 1, 2, 3, 4. pair of angles. So what they want you to do is they want you to compare angle 1 to angle 2. Compare how are they alike, contrast maybe how they're different. So I'm not going to require a full sentence here, but maybe brainstorm some ideas now and pause the video. Okay, let me go over what I would say. To compare, I would say they both share a vertex. That's one way they are alike. To contrast, angle 1 appears to be acute. Angle 2 appears to be obtuse. One thing that makes them alike, one thing that makes them different. Letter B. How is this angle and this angle alike? Or compare them. They both share vertex D. How are they different? Angle 1 has point A in it, and angle 2 does not. Together, they form 90 degrees, would be a great thing to say about them also. Letter C, they are alike because they both are acute, less than 90. They are different because they have different vertex. This has vertex E, this has vertex S. Notice how I'm using vocabulary like acute, right, obtuse, vertex, point B, things like that. Recall that the sum of the measures of complementary angles is 90, and the sum of supplementary angles is 180. That's super important. You're going to hear this word supplementary 100 times or more this semester and this whole year. So you really need to know that. You might want to make a note off to the side in your book. You might just want to rewrite it. Complementary. And that means the sum of the measures is 90. That means angles add up to 90 degrees. It's not one angle, it's two angles that add up to 90. Supplementary, which I'll abbreviate sup a lot of time, is or are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. You need to know this. You need to know complementary too, but this is a huge part of today's lesson, knowing the term complement and supplementary angles. Number 3, the figure below shows two intersecting lines. Name two angles that are supplementary to angle 4. So here's angle 4. What with 4 adds to 180? Well, 3 with 4 adds to 180 because look, that angle added to that angle makes a straight line, and the straight line is 180. So angle 3 and angle 4, I guess I should write up here because that's the question I'm on. And then it says, what other angle with angle 4 makes a straight line or 180? That would be angle 5. And it is okay to just use the one letter or number. B, explain why these angles you named in part A must have the same measure. So even though angle 3 is not labeled like 150 degrees, and angle 5 is not labeled, they are the same measure. How do I know? Well, think of it this way. If angle 4, let's make something up now. Let's say it's 40 degrees. How big is angle 3? Well, together they have to add to 180. So that leaves 140. If 4 and 5 have to add to 180, what would angle 5 be? 140. This will work for any number I pick because you can't just make up numbers. I'm just showing you so that you have an idea in your head. If this is 20 degrees and 3 and 4 together make a straight line for 180 degrees, 180 minus 20 is 160. What about angle 5 here? Well, 4 and 5 make a straight line, 180 degrees, so that would have to be 160 with 20. No matter what I pick for angle 4, if these are both supplementary to 4, they're going to be the same. So pause the video, write that down. It's kind of a hard description to put into words. Number 4. Complete the chart by naming all the listed angle types in each figure. So they would like you to list acute angles. So which in here is less than 90? Angle 8 and 9. Over here, which one's less than 90? Well, we're going to have to use 3 letters because it's not very clear. I would go with ABF. CBD. And I'm going to go ahead and not make you list all of them, just list a couple if there are more than one. That's good enough. Obtuse would be angle 10, angle 7. Those look greater than 90. By the way, over here, it tells you acute is from 0 to 90. Right is exactly 90. Obtuse is greater than 90. But notice, it doesn't just say greater than 90. It's greater than 90, but less than 180. Because once you hit 90, it's a right angle. Once I bring this bigger, now it's obtuse. But if I keep going and get a straight line, that is called a straight angle. So there's some vocabulary there. Obtuse angles, we said 10 and 7. Over here, an obtuse angle could be A, B, D. Another one could be F, B, E. There's a ton of them that you could come up with. Angles with the same measure. We kind of just talked about this in question 3B. 10 and 7 are the same because look, they both form a straight line with 9. They're both supplementary with 9. Also, 8 and 9 are alike because they are both supplementary or add to 180 with angle 7. Over in this picture, angles with the same measure. This will be something we will learn in a little bit. We haven't learned it yet, but this angle and this angle are what we call vertical angles. Basically, anytime you have an angle and you take this ray and extend it, and you take this ray and extend it, those are what we call vertical angles. They will always be alike. So that's angle ABF and angle DBE. Supplementary angles. Remember, angles that add up to 180. So 8 and 7 add up to 180. Or you could do angle 8 and 10 add to 180. I know the directions say all of them, but we're not going to list all of them. That's good enough. Over here, here's a straight line. So the angles that made that would be ABC and angle CBE. Those are 2 angles that add up to 180. Don't pick 3, pick 2. Complementary angles, angles that add to 90. There actually aren't any in this picture that we know of, so none there. Over here, here's 90 degrees, but remember it has to be 2 angles that add to 90. So don't put this angle, that doesn't work. It has to be 2 angles that add to 90. Do these 2 angles add to 90? Yes, now they should have this symbol so you know for sure, but here's the way you actually know for sure. If this is a straight line, 180, and this is already 90, what's left for over here? Has to be 90. So we do know for sure they add to 90. It's not that they just look like it, they actually do. So if you label your picture 1 and 2, I will allow you to just say here, angle 1 and angle 2, as long as your picture is labeled 1 and 2. And you can do that in your homework as well, or even quizzes and tests. If you want to shorthand and not write out 3 letters, if your picture is labeled, you can write it that way. All right. Some more vocabulary. A chord, a diameter, and a radius. You've heard these before, I'm sure. I have drawn 3 circles. I would do that as well in your notes. A chord of a circle is a segment, so part of a line, with both endpoints on the circle. So go ahead and put an endpoint on the circle, another endpoint on the circle, draw a segment, that's a chord. There are a ton of chords you could draw. I don't recommend drawing a lot of them in your picture, but this is a chord, this is a chord. As long as it has 2 points on the circle, it counts. Okay, so chord. A diameter is a chord. So it is one of these things, but it also passes through the center. So it has to have endpoints on the circle, but also pass through the center. Is there more than one way for me to draw a chord? Yeah, sorry, a diameter. Yeah, this is a diameter. This is a diameter. There's a ton of them you could draw. I would just pick one. Finally, a radius is a segment with one endpoint on the circle and 1 point at the center. That's a radius. Pretty simple. 5. In the figure below, draw and label each geometric term. Radius OA. So a radius is 1 point on the circle, 1 point at the center. Let's label that OA. Letter B, chord BA. Now a chord has to have 2 endpoints on the circle. So if I did this, that's a chord, but I already have an A here. So I can't do that. Could I do this? Is that a chord? No, because A is not on the circle. So what happens is, why don't we go ahead and flip these letters? Does this still satisfy part A? Is that still radius OA? Yes. I have one endpoint on the circle, one endpoint at the center OA. Now I can go ahead and draw chord BA. A is on the circle, B has to be somewhere on the circle. Now it works out. Finally, we have diameter CA. I have to use A again, and I have to do a diameter. So it has to go through the center onto the next side. That's all 3 of them in one picture. Refer to your drawing in the circle above. What is the geometric term for point O? That is the center. The circles below are concentric circles. These are concentric circles, meaning they have the same center. They both have center P. Explain why circle P is not an appropriate name for the smaller one. Well, if I told somebody to go to the board and color in circle P, somebody may color in this, and somebody may color in this. So circle P is not the best way to describe it. If I just had this, then you would definitely call this circle P, and you would be done. But this cannot be used, be named circle P, because there are a lot of different circles here with, or 2 circles here with the same center. So that is why it's not an appropriate name. Propose an alternate name for the smaller circle. So how could I explain this circle? Well, the way we want you to do that is to call it circle P, and then be more specific. The comma. Oh boy, commas are not going well. With, so this is circle P with, here's some more information about it. That's called a radius. And how do I name the radius? 2 endpoints. That would be a better way to describe this small circle. Again, if it's just one circle, you call it circle R. Compare and contrast acute, obtuse, right, and straight. So you would just look at the vocabulary and describe those. Number 9. The measure of angle A is 42. What is the measurement angle that is complementary to A? Remember, complementary is two angles that add up to 90. So if A is 42, what is complementary with that? So go ahead and subtract 42. Grab a calculator. 90 minus 42 is 48. Okay, the next one is similar. What is the measure of an angle that is supplementary to angle A? Well, from your notes that you've already taken, supplementary is two angles that add up to 180. So if one of the angles, angle A, is 42, like the directions say, how big is the other one that is supplementary with it? That's going to be 138. Okay, number 10, draw circle P. That means that's the center. Draw a segment that has one endpoint on the circle, but it's not a chord. A segment that has one endpoint on the circle and another that is not a chord. Well, that's not a chord. That's not a chord. There's a lot of different ways that you could draw it. Part B. So we can go with that. That has one endpoint on the circle, but it's not a chord. B, draw a segment that intersects a circle in 2 points and contains a center, but it's not a radius diameter chord. So it has to go through the circle 2 times, containing the center, but not a radius diameter chord. Well, this is a diameter, but this is not, because it did not stop here and here. So line BC would be my example here. This follows everything. It has 2 points on the circle, contains the center, but it is not a radius because the radius has to stop at the center. It's not a diameter because it does not stop on the circle. It's not a chord. All right. Here's your homework. So make sure you list the section, sorry. Make sure you write 1.2 as the section, page 10, numbers 8 through 14. We already did 8, 9, and 10, but I do want to see your written answers, especially for 8, but go ahead and do all of 8 through 14.